Good morning. How we doing today? This is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit. Welcome back to another video. And as you know, on this channel, we normally take a single hand history, break it apart, talk about the good, bad, and the ugly, and then call it quits for the day. Today, we're going to do something similar to that, but through a slightly different lens. So here's what happened. A couple months ago, I sent out an email and said, hey guys, here's a single hand. What would you do here? That's it. And I went and reviewed the results recently. It was like, this isn't exactly what I was expecting was going to be the answer. And whenever I see there's like mega disagreement in things, I think that there's a lot of value in making a video about it, right? If everyone kind of knows what the correct answer is, it's kind of boring. Let's just skip that and move on. But when there's mega disagreement, I think things are going to be very, very interesting. And there's a lot of value in dissecting that stuff. So what we're going to do in this video is show you the hand, talk about what you would actually do here, compare that to what other people said they would do here, and then I'll give my feedback and also explain why I did what I did. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. I'm going to run you right up to the mega inflection point and we'll go from there. And just for the record, this was played at 1-3 live, and this is a hand that I actually played. I was waiting for a 2-5 seat, 1-3 seat was available, so I took it. There's not a ton of information. I'll explain any extra information when I go through the analysis part, but ultimately you pretty much have the information that we have here in terms of stack sizes and positions. So let's run it up to the inflection point and see what you would do in this spot. So again, we're playing 1-3, there's a limp, there's another limp, I attack to 22, big blind continues, EP3 continues, cutoff goes away, flop comes like this, check, 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 turn is a 9, face a $25 bet, fold from EP3, and here we are. So at this point, you have four options. You can A, fold. You can B, call and usually give the big blind action if he fires the river. You could C, call and usually fold if the big blind fires the river. Or D, you can raise. And raising, it doesn't really matter if you make a cutesy raise up to 80 or you just shove it right here. Given the stack sizes, all raising is pretty much committing, so I just wrapped it into a single option. So take a moment, pause right here, write down what you would do and why, and then we'll go from there. All right, so now that you have your answer, let's compare it to everyone else's. So we got 1,300 responses to this quiz, and here's what we showed up with. 45% of them said that they would call and usually give action if the big blind fired on the river. 39% of them said they would raise right this moment on the turn. 13% of people said that they would call and usually fold if the big blind fired the river. And 3% of people said that they would fold right this moment on the turn. Now, I'm just going to assume that all the people that said fold are trolling simply because that's a bonkers thing to do, right? You're getting 4-1 on this street. You're closing action on this street. You're facing a really small bet, and I don't know why you'd be super fearful of that. You have pretty much one of the strongest hands you can show up with here after the flop goes check, 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 in my opinion. So no, you can't fold here. The options realistically are the other three. But notice that a lot of people said that they would call in this situation, right? So here's the honest truth. My answer here is to raise. And I don't even think it's really that close. But I'm also not super shocked that people said that they would call based upon the conversations that I have with students in the forum, in the YouTube comments here on videos. The average person wants to call here. They want to see if they improve. They want to see how the board rolls out. But notice that a lot of those reasons are very self-focused. They're very whole card focused, and they're really based on ego and fear, right? They don't want to risk raising and being wrong. They don't want to risk raising and losing 8x, and they don't want to, put in a lot of money with a lot of uncertainty, and one pair can be uncertain to a lot of people. And that's what I'm noticing here, right? The people that say call, when I actually ask them why, it's typically self-reasons. There's very little discussion about what the big blind's range realistically is, what $25 reasonably means, what the plan is on the river, understanding what river cards are going to be good versus bad, and what their overall plan is. It's just really wishy-washy, and they're missing the important things. This is a game of ranges and frequencies, and the big blind's range here shouldn't be all that strong, right? If it really was, there's a ton of draws on this board. Is he really only going to bet $25 when he's strong, right? Wouldn't he bet $50 or $60 and try to quote-unquote protect? Right? That's what I would expect. I think $25 indicates weakness a large chunk of the time, or at least marginal value, much more often than it indicates strength. And as such, a major question of mine becomes, okay, well, what just happens if we raise right this moment? The issue with calling is we allow him to set the price, whether he's doing it with a draw, whether he's doing it with 8x, right? He could be doing this with worse hands. He could have 7-8 and have no idea what to do with it. He could have draws that obviously we crush right this moment, although those draws do have equity. I don't really see the reason to let him set that price at 25 bucks. If he wants to see his draw to completion, why do we assume that he wouldn't pay a premium for that, right? Why couldn't we just punch it right here and get looked up by those draws and say, well, I guess I'll gamble for it. Sweet. I'm happy with that every day of the week. So this is a great situation to raise rather than call and play kind of wishy-washy. And the issue here is notice that, yeah, about 3 times the amount of people that said they would call said they'd usually give action if big blind fires the river, but there's a lot of river cards that you aren't necessarily going to love and or are going to be confusing and or you could easily make some mistakes on. And the people that said they're going to call here and usually fold if big blind fires the river, I mean, what the heck are we calling here for? Trying to improve to 2 pair? Like, that's not much of a strategy in my opinion. And again, not much of a reason to think that we're behind anywhere near enough of the time to justify that kind of line creation. So let's actually restart this hand, start from the beginning, and I'll run you through my thought process the entire way through. So there's a limp, there's another limp, and I decide to attack to 22. And this was the kind of table where most people in this spot would raise to something like 15 or 16 bucks, and I wanted folds right this moment. If I get action, okay, fine, I'm in position, I have a hand that can do some things, but I'm very much looking to fight for this pot right this moment, not give the big blind a decent price, and then get the avalanche of callers from EP2 and the cutoff. So ultimately, I'm choosing a price, and let's be honest, if I raise here to 22 and everyone folds and I pick up 10 bucks uncontested, do that a couple of times per hour, and that's literally an hourly win rate at 1.3. So this is something that I'm very, very much into, and then seeing how people react to the 22 and saying, okay, do I need to go larger on this? Can I go a little smaller on this in the future? But right this moment, I'm definitely going to be using my position and sizing to my advantage. Getting a call from the big blind was a little surprising, but it does happen sometimes. What are you going to do? EP3 continues, cutoff goes away. I don't know why the cutoff goes away, but what are you going to do? Live players do silly things sometimes. After we get 2 checks to us, I just decide to check behind on the flop. I don't really think this is a great flop for us. Sure, we could try to fight and get things like Queen Jack and Ace 10 and things like that to fold, but there's going to be a decent amount of continuance here, and between 2 players, I think it's going to be a little tough to get any single pair to fold. Sure, I definitely get folds from things like King Jack, I think, unless it's clubs, of course, but ultimately, I don't really think I have enough equity given continuance, and I don't think there's much reason to fire here, so I'll just kind of tone it back, check behind, see a free card on the turn, and make some decisions from there. As played, turn is a beautiful 9, face this silly bet from the big blind, EP3 goes away, and I decide to punch it. So I kind of already alluded to most of the reasons on why I was doing this, but what really happens here is a lot of people say, I'm going to call here, I think my hand has showdown value, I don't think my hand has enough value to raise, and as such, I call. Okay, I get it, but we don't make showdown value decisions solely based upon, do I have 1 pair? Do I have top pair mech kicker? Do I have top pair decent kicker but not quite good enough to continue kind of thing? That's not the rationale with showdown value, okay? You have to think about this in terms of what line is going to be the most EV. What is going to be the highest EV line here? And I don't think calling, letting big blind set the price is going to be best, especially when I think big blind will pay a premium, particularly with clubs, Jack 10, 7, 6, those kind of hands. I think there's definitely going to be a premium paid with drawing kind of hands. It's just the way that these kind of players are, particularly when he doesn't even start the hand with a full stack. This is someone that I definitely want to get after and start attacking and not let him set the price and set the action going forward. So because of that, I just punch it right here. He's getting give or take 2 to 1. Again, I think a lot of these live players are going to take very incorrect prices with draws. There are definitely some 9x hands that I can get value from as well that I don't think he's going to fold, like 10-9, Jack-9, 7-9. And again, if he has a draw, fine, come get it. If he wants to fold it and leave his equity on the table, okay, that's fine. But again, I don't think the average live player is going to do that. Now, a lot of players will say, well, okay, what if he has 7-8 though, and you shove? Aren't you getting him to fold? Okay, yeah, some percentage of the time, sure. And am I going to shove sometimes and run into the nuts? Yeah, sometimes, sometimes he's going to end up having a set. It is what it is. But think about it this way. I don't think 8-3, 8 deuce, 9 deuce, or 9 tray are in his range. So the only real ways that he can make monster hands are sets of deuces, threes, eights, and turn 9. Mind you, we block some of that out, and 9-8. But I think if he has 9-8, I think it's only going to be suited. And because we have the diamond in our hand, 9-8 suited can only be made with 9-8 of hearts exactly. So there aren't that many combinations of hands that crush us. Compare that to the amount of 9x combos which we smash that I think that he would overvalue. Couple that with draws that I think he would overvalue, particularly if he has like ace 10 of clubs. I don't think he's going to fold that as a default. I just have no reason to believe that without further information. So all of that kind of long-winded answer to say, I think shoving is much, much better here than just taking the default call and see what happens approach, treat my hand as showdown value approach. I don't think that's going to be best in this exact situation, so I punched it. Big blind ended up folding, is what it is, still scoop a pot, no problem, no showdown, no contest, don't have to show a card. If you want to flip someone off and get someone a little bit angry, just flash them the king, be done with it, and rock and roll. Sometimes I like showing a single card playing live, depends on what I think it can do to my opponent. But all that being said, that is what people said they would do here, what I did here, and why I did it. And if you have any other thought processes or questions on this, make sure to leave them in the comments and I'll be checking all week. And that is going to wrap it up for this hand. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Again, down in the comments below is great. And if you have any feedback on this, if you like this kind of thing, the kind of single hand quiz, the analysis that comes with it, kind of showing you what other people would do in spots, let me know. This is stuff that I can definitely do more of. Or if you didn't like it, well, I'll stop making it altogether. No harm, no foul. But one thing I want to bring up, because I haven't really talked about it on this channel yet, is core. So you'll notice that when we go through this hand, there are a lot of moving parts, right? Even if we look at preflop right here, we could limp behind, we could fold, but we need to know what goes into isolating limpers, 1 versus 2. If we do decide to isolate, we need to know sizing, what works best and why, how to use our position. And then even going into things like postflop, how to play heads up versus multi-way pots, when to c-bet versus when not to, thinking about future playability and board runouts. These are all things we have to keep in mind. And also on the turn, facing this bet, what does this bet mean? So we need some hand reading skills. If we are going to raise, we need to think about what that means. We need to understand showdown value versus value. We need to understand equity denial. All of these things are very, very important. And they're all kind of wrapped into lots and lots of different hands that you play on a regular basis. Now, core, what we did is we created the most structured learning experience ever for poker players. All of the things I just mentioned have lessons. So it essentially guides you through poker from A to Z, runs you through everything in order, what you need to know when you need to know it, and make sure that you have your entire poker foundation really, really well hammered out. Runs you through the absolute basics, basic poker math, runs you into the playbook stuff, runs you into the whys and whens of everything that you need to do on an everyday basis, on an every session basis, on and off the table. If that's something you're looking for, and if you're serious about improving, trust me, this is something you're massively going to enjoy. We spend tons and tons of time on it. And if you sign up right now, it's only $5 a week. You get instant access to over 100 lessons, quizzes, leaderboards, all sorts of fun stuff that's going to keep you on the right track. And all these things that I kind of breeze through real quickly as we're going through this hand, you're going to start to be able to do the same thing much faster as well. Because you're going to have all of these pieces of information and strategy just deeply ingrained in your brain, and you're going to be able to pull them out and use them much better, much more readily. And trust me, at the end of the day, that adds up in a huge way. So again, if you're interested in that, you can learn more going to splitsuit.com/core. It'll take you right to the sales page. It's a red chip poker product, so when you get forwarded over to that page, don't be shocked by it. But core, honestly, whether you're kind of newer to poker, whether you've been playing for a while and you know you have some leaks and you want to fix them up, or you've been playing for a long time, you just want to make sure you're not missing anything, core is going to be right up your alley, and it's priced in a way that won't break your bankroll, and trust me, gives you huge ROI potential. So again, splitsuit.com/core if you're interested. I think it's going to be a great fit for you. And again, if you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, as always, thank you so much for hanging out today. Talk to you soon. And as always, good luck out there and happy grinding.